Hi, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge. Today we're going to take a look at another Enlan knife. This time, the L01. There's a few varieties of this Tanto blade that they've made. Some G10, some micarta. It's a unique, different blade from a lot that are out there, especially at this price point. Come on down to the tabletop and let's take a good look at this thing. So how did you like my nice bright safety orange golf shirt? I guess it goes with this knife. This knife is a dangerous looking knife. Well, not really. I tend to think of Tantos as, I don't know, somehow a little more aggressive than other knives. With the G10, with the micarta, the black, and then this red, it sort of looks like it's hot, like it's embers from a fire or something that are still glowing. I don't know, maybe that's just my imagination. But let's take a look at this thing. This is the Enlan, as we have the name right there. Enlan, and it's from the L01 grouping. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that to show very well. You've got the L01, the L01-1, which is a different blade, a different scales, and the L01 MCT, which is this one. So the L01 MCT, MCT stands for micarta, I guess. It's in red and black. I got mine on the internet from eBay for $10, I believe it was. I can't find the receipt right now. I could have just looked under my profile, but eBay's coming up slowly for me right now. Some kind of problem with either my browser or my network connection. Anyway, at FastTech, this knife with this coloration is $10.99. The L01-1 is a really sharp looking micarta, but it's just black and white. But with the kind of cutouts that you have here, the 3D work that they did on it, it looks really sharp. I'm almost ready to pull the trigger and buy one of those. $11.20, the most expensive of the three L01 options. The just plain L01 is black G10. And at Enlan, it's an Enlan. At FastTech, it's $9.80. At GearBest, this particular knife is not as good of a buy. The black one. GearBest only has the G10 model at $10.93. So you're looking at $11 as compared to FastTech's $9.80. So unless you've got one of those GearBest 8% off codes, which is roughly going to make them an equal price. So you pick which vendor you prefer to deal with. The steel is 8CR13 MOV, so it's that very common steel that's being used by Enlan. It's their most common steel that they use. The steel is listed right at the base of the blade. If I can get the glare just right and then the focus to happen. It's not going to focus. But this knife is, that 8CR13 MOV. With this Tanto, we've got a bit of a drop point with a swedge right here that you can see as I turn it. The light bounces off it differently. Yeah, I kind of like that swedge down there. It helps make it look a little more aggressive than it would otherwise. If it was just a drop point down to the angles and then the flat, it would still look good. But it is what it is. So you've got a long flat area here, and there's a bit of a belly on this section. It's not flat, it's a bit curved here, the short section at the front of the Tanto. Let's take a look at it. The long straight section is 2.5 inches, and then you've got that 1 inch going up this way. The whole thing all together is 3.5 inches long, well, just under 3.5 inches long if you measure at the bottom here, but the cutting edge itself is even less, 3.25, because of the sharpener's toil that they took out space. If somebody measures from the top, it gets even longer, but be that as it may, this knife does surpass the 3-inch rule, so be aware of that in whatever jurisdiction you're on. This knife is slightly over the 3 inches. I like the thumb disc. I have very few knives that have a thumb disc, and it helps get a good grip to flick the knife out, and it, flicks out with good authority. And if I do it on my other hand, I can sometimes do it with my left. Let's see if I can get it on camera. That was a joke. There we go. It looked kind of funny. I don't know what, it's kind of strange because I'm left-handed in handwriting and when I eat, and everything else I'm kind of right-handed. Did I say right-handed? I'm left-handed when I eat and for handwriting, as if I could do foot writing. And on pretty much everything else, I'm right-handed. My 3 older brothers, with the hand-me-downs that I got from them, I got all the right-handed stuff. So maybe that's why I'm more right-handed. Oh well, that hardly matters. I'm somewhat ambidextrous, and this disc is ambidextrous, with the clip getting a little bit in the way of a left-handed person. But unfortunately, there's no way to move the clip to any other side. The clip does not give you a very deep carry. You're going to have about 1 inch showing when you've got this in your pocket, which is quite a bit. Especially with the red, it's going to draw attention to itself, and the steel being highly reflective. If you carry this knife, anybody that's looking for someone carrying a knife, they'll notice you. So just be aware of that. If you're in a jurisdiction like Canada, where I kicked the tripod again. Sorry about that, guys. If you're in a jurisdiction like Canada where you need to do exposed carry, you can't do concealed carry, this is a really good choice. Nobody's going to say, well, he was hiding it from me. It's a good knife. The length of the chassis here is just over 4 inches, 4 1/4. It's just about 1 inch this way, a little over when you count the blade. The micarta handle is very much just parallel all the way along, which means it's going to be very adequate for multiple different sizes of hands, small hands, medium-sized hands, large hands. They all will find that it's, pretty much the same kind of equally comfort, because there's no choils that are the wrong size or no swells that are the wrong size. All the edges are nicely rounded. They've fitted it really nice into the liners so that you don't have any hot spots or sharp edges. The steel's all been dealt with very well. The pillars, you get 2 pillars, and then you've got the stop pillar, and then you got the pivot, and that's plenty to hold this knife together. The liners have no skeletonization on it, and that will lead us to talking about the weight of the knife. And the knife is 3.8989. It's bouncing back and forth ounces, and that's 109 grams. So it's not a heavy knife by any stretch. It's not a light knife either. It's a fairly average, nice carry for its size. Actually, for being over 3 inches, it is a little bit on the lighter side. It's a more than adequate knife. And my dog is barking at the neighbors coming down the street. I'm going to pause this and deal with my lovely little Bandit. Oh, now that I was distracted by Bandit, the cool little dog barking down the street at the neighbors moving around, I don't remember what else I wanted to say about this, except for I EDC'd this thing for a while. It's still got the original edge on it. It will sharpen easily. It'll, you've got the nice flat surface here for this hollow grind that it'll connect to any of your your sharpening systems that need to clamp on. And I've been forgetting to tell on the reviews of the other knives that I've been doing for the last while to verify that there's no play in the lockup, either up or down and side to side. On all the knives that I've reviewed, all the knives I've reviewed in 2016, I've had no problem except for just a slight adjustment needed on one or two knives. This knife came really well. I've not needed to lubricate it. I'm still getting used to when I first put it into my hand after, having it not in my hand for 5 or 10 minutes, it seems I've got to open it one time before I can get back to opening it well. It just feels different with a thumb disc than it does with thumb studs. It's really nice though. The jimping is on this little riser coming out of the pivot area, and it's very nice jimping for getting a good purchase of your thumb. You can cinch up on this knife a little bit, put your thumb up by the disc, put this finger here. If you put your your middle finger right in this choil and then sort of hug down with your index finger, you will generally be safe to do some fine cutting. Because it's not really sloped in, it's not going to drag your finger in because it's more flat. It's, you own a knife, you've used a knife, you know how to be careful with your knives or not be careful. I'm not the danger police. I won't tell you how to use your knife. I'm able to successfully, grab it like this, and I did some delicate work. The long straight edge is, it's really good for making things like feather sticks in the bush or whatever. It's terrible for, carving, whittling away at something because that long flat edge gives you very few options. You do have this bit up front for doing stuff, but it's just not really adequate for a lot of that kind of stuff. It would work good as a kitchen tool for camping, a kitchen knife for that kind of thing, slicing cheese, whatever. The hollow grind is it's done very well. They've kept the blade tip, the cutting edge right in the middle, and it came very sharp. This knife came sharper than most knives come from Enlan or Sanrenmu or Gonzo that I found. I guess my take on that is that whoever does the grinding on these finds it much easier to do a straight line than a curve or a recurve or anything. And of course that makes sense. It is easier to sharpen something that's flat than something that has some motion to it. So yeah, it came very sharp, and it's still, I almost never do this. It grabs a little bit there. I'm terrible at it, which is why I very seldom show paper cutting. I have said in some of my earliest videos that I will not do paper cutting in my videos. And largely because I'll do stuff like this and people will think, oh, that knife's not very sharp. And no, it's not the knife's fault. It's my fault. There is technique involved as well as simply the sharpness of the knife. One thing that I do is the more old school of putting the blade on your fingernail, and if you put pressure on it, I'm pushing away from myself just slightly, and the knife just stops dead in its tracks on the fingernail. On the thumbnail, it just stops. It doesn't slide away. Wherever I go, it just comes to a dead stop. It's quite sharp. Now I've got little nicks in my thumb there that I'm going to have to file down. So yes, it is a very sharp knife. Oh, the clip retention. The clip is quite tight, but this micarta doesn't have a lot of traction to it, not like G10 with a delicate pattern in it. So it's adequate. It sits fine in my pockets. It's a larger clip than I think this knife needs for its weight. I think they could have put a smaller clip on there and had done a better job. It would suit the knife better if it was just a bit smaller, in my personal opinion, I guess. So there you go. The Enlan L01 Tanto blade. I don't know if I said the steel before. 8CR13 MOV. The most common Chinese steel, that Enlan uses for sure. When you're using your knife, remember guys and gals, always cut towards your chum and not your thumb, and all will be well. Bye now.